Everybody, so
Yeah, everybody is here.
I'll call the March 13th, 2024 meeting of the Creek Prairie School Board to order. Thank everybody for their attendance. Looks like we're at mass here. And we'll begin with roll call, Marla.
Isaac Wallace.
Here.
Rich James. Here. Peggy McCormick. Here. Bo Schrader.
Here.
Janet Mathis.
Here.
Earl Wallace.
Here.
Scott Walter.
Here. Second, affirmation of proof and publication of the agenda.
I, Kimberly Johnson, hereby certify that the notice of Kickapoo Area Schools regular school board meeting was caused to be published in the Epitaph News and posted on billboards in the following places on 3/6/2024. The Kickapoo K-12 School Building, Citizens First Bank of Viola, Viola Post Office, and our school website.
Thank you, Kim. I'll then entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I so move. I can second it.
Motion by Earl, second by Rich to approve the agenda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next up, audience to visitors and board members. And I believe we do have some visitors in the room tonight. Just a quick reminder, and we're trying to emphasize this as more and more folks show up, that we've got 5 minutes for comments. And it's not intended to be a discussion period, but a chance for us to hear comments from the public.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for your time. My wife, Donna, who's over there, and I prepared a one-page chart that she'll hand out here with projected revenue, expense, tax levy, and mill rate using the Kickapoo Area School District budget forecast models. I wanted to share 3 points with the board this evening, followed by 2 questions for the Board of Education and the administrative staff. That's the purpose why I'm here. Point number 1, as I mentioned previously, a $1.6 million reoccurring referendum is projected to increase tax levy from $1,996,371 annually in the current year, 2024, to a ceiling of $4,557,473 in 28-29. This represents 128% projected tax levy increase over those 5 years, or $2,556,102. The referendum forecast models also project declining enrollment that may drop around 70 students over the next 5 years. So in essence, we're significantly increasing the tax levy while educating fewer students. Point number 2, Fund 10 expenses that Kimberly and Melissa referenced in the local newspaper on March 14th, and Donna and I referenced in the local newspaper on March 7th, are identical. That would make sense because we're using the same budget forecast models. The Kickapoo area expenditures are projected to grow 10%, as mentioned yesterday in the article, from $7,557,429 currently in the budget year to $8,053,202 in 28-29. We never stated that expenses would double. Only the KAS tax levy is highlighted in the referendum forecast model. Point number 3, and I touched this briefly at the listening session around historical mill rates, but I wanted to actually highlight it here today. The mill rate was 10% around 2011 to 2016. During that time, the district property valuation ranged from $179,633,161 to a low to a high of $188,914,309 during that time period. It's worth noting that the current district property valuation in 2023-24 currently is $345,870,455. So that's roughly a $156,956,146 increase of 83%. So although our mill rates are lower, right, we have a higher property valuation. Okay, so that's worth noting. Now, my two questions for the Board of Education and administrative staff. One, can you please explain why the Kikuku area expenditures are projected to increase 10% from 7,557,429 currently to 8 million, as I touched on, 2829, while Kikuku tax levy is projected to increase by 128% during that same time period, from $1,996,000 to $4,557,473.29 and 28 period. So you got one going at 10%, you got one going over at 100. So I'm trying to understand that. Second question. If the $1.6 million recurring referendum passes, can you please provide an estimate or breakdown how the additional funding would be allocated or spent? Perhaps a pie chart or a bar chart with percentage estimates of the following, or whatever you think makes sense. One would be school staff salary, pensions, and benefits. One would be additional funds for students. Third would be maintaining the school fund balance at approximately 25% of expense, which is very important, and I agree with, to maintain that. And lastly, all other operational costs, facilities, equipment, and supplies. And I think that level of transparency and visibility on these two questions would be very important, not only for Don and I, but I think all the people that are voting on this. Lastly, in summary, I'll just say this referendum is very important to our community. We have a lot of challenges that you guys have highlighted in the listening sessions and on the website. There's not a lot of easy answers, okay? And I'm trying to provide a focus around some of the financial aspects of this, and it warrants a discussion, and I think it's an important discussion for our community. So that's my intent in coming out. This is trying to be productive. It's a big number, and I've taken quite a bit of time to try to research it. And again, I appreciate your time this evening. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian, and can we hang on to these?
Yes.
And
And if you would like my comments, I can hand them out to my written things that I just, or what I spoke about here.
You got copies, Adrian?
I made 10 copies.
Yeah, I would like a copy, certainly.
Material was the same as what was in the paper.
What?
Is this the same?
Yes, it's, I added a few more.
Oh, okay.
Because I highlighted the yellow based off of the expense content that was in the paper yesterday. Okay.
Very good, thank you both. Next up,
Wait.
We can't answer questions.
say it again.
I have something to talk about.
Oh, sorry.
Finish audience to visitors.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not, yeah. So I just wanted to go over, I went to the school law conference, on February 29th. I actually learned a lot of stuff and had some questions about things that at some point we can talk about so I can figure it out, but, the one thing that they did go over that I really thought was a great idea was having, like a, where did it go? An orientation for new school board members, mainly because I'm a new-ish school board member. And then like, I know it was like, oh, if you have any questions, let us know, but when we don't know what we're supposed to ask questions about, and then it comes up and then we're like, oh, I don't know what that means. So I thought that would be something. I mean, hopefully we don't have to worry about new school board members for a long time, but that was something that they mentioned. And then another thing that I really had a lot of thoughts about was, it was kind of like under the bullying policies, kind of things like that, and what the school's liable for. They were saying that like, even if something happens between two students that isn't on school grounds, but it interferes with one of the students' education and like a bunch of things, that the school is still liable for that, which I thought was something notable to maybe discuss at some point. Just because, like, I know that that happens. I think in Reedstown the other day, there was some commotion with some seventh grade students, I think it was. I'm not for sure who exactly, but, you know, and if it had something that stemmed from school or if it, you know, hurt their ability to feel safe while they were in school, that was another like thing that they said, that that was the school's responsibility too. So it was, that was really, really eye-opening for those kind of things. They did touch some on AI and the ladies that did the AI presentation, for the most part, thought it was a really good thing to use, but then they did a little of the cons too. Like, it was really good for teachers and stuff, but it was not so good for students. But with it, you could, like, if a student wrote something up, we used to be able to like Google it and we could find an article, but because AI makes it up themselves with the stuff that you put in, it's harder to find out if it was really their own thoughts and stuff. And so that was interesting too with it, because it was so fun in the beginning. They were just like talking, but it was so awesome. Look what we did, and all we had to do was put these words in and we got this. And then they're like, but so that was, I feel like that's probably gonna be something huge that's gonna be coming out to all of, you know, in school soon, since it's such a big thing, and there's free versions of it, so some of it's paid, some of it's free, so it's something that's obviously, I don't know, coming and will be hard to control, I feel like. I don't know. It was a lot over my head with that stuff, but yeah, so.
Good comments. I'll throw a couple things back at you. Your second comment about school liability for things that happen off school grounds, that's a legal question, and if we want the answer, I guess their legal counsel.
Yeah, and they had a bunch of like the policy, like the state stuff in here, so.
And they usually have where they get their thing from, you know, the cases and things.
Yep,
That would surprise me if we're liable for things that happen off.
and it's more of a like like a student safety concern, right? Like,
Yeah, I can add to it a little bit. We would, and this would be completely new, but we would not be liable for something that happened off campus. However, if the off-campus event then turned into a situation in school, which stemmed into then a school issue, which created issues there, it would become that part of it. So not necessarily like
yeah,
something happens, you said a fight happened and that happened off campus.
Right.
There's nothing there. But now if that creates an issue in the school is where it
So
becomes
the
a
student doesn't
school.
feel safe.
Yes.
where, yeah, the student doesn't feel safe, or like it's some of like the recording of things that happen and
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
and then it disrupts other students learning and things like that. There was a lot of information in it, and I was just like, whoa.
No, I was gonna address something.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say, that is a really good conference. I've gone other years, and it's always good, the school law conference, and it's definitely worth somebody's time to go. I mean, administrators go sometimes.
Yep.
Doug Elliott went once or twice, I know, and I went.
I sat with a couple an administrator and a principal
And
or
it's
something.
it's a WASB. So,
I wished I could go to all of them, but you know, they had 2 sessions at the same time, so you had
Yeah,
to pick and choose.
that's the advantage if you can get 2 people to go.
Yep.
In your first comment, Peggy, at one point about coming into this as a new school board member and having no background, there's a lot to learn. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been at this 4 or 5 years, whatever, and I still am blown away at it. But I think when I started, I was handed a new school board member folder or
Yeah, WASB has
Set of-
something.
Yeah.
The other thing you did that was really good,
Yes.
sorry, I interrupted you, Scott, but Peggy went and I went to the new school board member thing last April, I think, shortly after you would have actually taken, or the new, all the members would have taken an oath. And that's always good.
Yeah, that was,
So
that helped a lot with like, open meetings
Yes.
kind of
they
thing.
do, They do.
They did, I went to the records
And the records.
too.
But you're right, I thought WASD actually had a new member pamphlet manual or something.
They do, right?
I don't know.
I probably got it at the bottom of my 3-foot.
Well, I'm
Maybe.
surprised we didn't get them at that meeting though, that's what, you know.
But locally, I thought we had, I was
We
there,
used to, a couple superintendents ago, I know it had gotten kind of thick enough.
and I got
Tear that
something, and
down
it
to
was
what they
informative,
initially
even,
but-
you know, like our committees.
Yeah.
what the committees do, schedule a meeting, some of the basic things.
And maybe this is just me, but I also learn better by, you know, doing, seeing, talking more than, here, read this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is all like stuff I have no idea what, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't know what any of this means, but now I don't have, you know, like, I can ask,
have
but I don't
any-
have anybody there. And I think it's hard to pick out what a new school board, what specific topics, you know, you should go over, but
So we could maybe help out by finding that packet and updating it, but also we had a discussion 6 months ago or so about,
training.
yeah,
Yeah.
ongoing trainings every few months, meet at 6 and have an hour on our insurance plan.
Yep.
On state laws pertaining to whatever. And I find those really beneficial, so it is, I guess I encourage everybody on the board, as things come up, you know, things are on the agenda still that I look at and you're like, well, I'm gonna vote yes, but I really don't understand this. Bring that up as a future education opportunity, and we'll have somebody in that can educate us, so we can better fulfill our duties. Good, really good comments. And AI, I'll just say I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't
I've come
even,
to understand the benefits, but I will say with regards to students being able to use it to plagiarize, my wife tells me it's very easy to sniff those out.
yeah, well, because
they
it
are
doesn't
written
sound like them.
Usually at a level that the student involved is not typically shown the ability to write it. So like you said, it's not an issue, at least in
I
those
think,
English classes. All right, good comments. Anybody else? Sorry, I overstepped the.
I have a just brief comment, just at the town of Stark meeting just before this, and Holly Franks is part of the board. She's part of the Florida School Board, just brought up the idea of doing the joint school board meeting at some point. So she's mentioned at their board, and I offered to mention here again, looking for ways we can align, find, you know, efficiencies between two districts, so.
yeah,
Can we, that's come up a number of times here. Can we say by, let's set a deadline,
Okay.
if possible. I don't know. how hard
Absolutely,
that
I
is.
did talk to Megan about it too, but it's one of those things I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, if you don't say, let's do
Can we
it.
say at the May board meeting, we'll set a date? When we used to meet, didn't it used to be January, and either July or August?
Yeah, twice a year, you
We
know,
did twice a year, and one was January and one was July.
Yeah, 'cause kind of cold when we went there, here or whatever.
I think they came here,
Yeah.
usually, we went there. July, August.
So I'm
Maybe
glad
we
you
should
brought
get-
that up, because
yeah.
we've got the shared Spanish position. I think we're all thinking there may be other efficiencies there. Anybody else?
I did go to the town of Kickapoo meeting last night, very nervously, afraid that they were gonna ask me questions I had no idea of an answer. But the questions they asked, I pretty much knew what they were talking about.
Well, we've got town. hall
Oh, yeah, we're
meetings.
gonna talk about that then.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's on the informational agendas. We'll move onward then to expense vouchers and receipts.
One question I was wondering, on Jeff's, for the large truck center, is that one of the buses need a new sensor or something, or you know?
Large bus, do you remember, Allison, is that the fuel?
No, I don't think it was a fuel tank. I think it was something else. That would have been on Jeff's piece.
I was just wondering what it was, that's all.
I don't remember offhand, but
I know it was a repair, not just supplies for something. I'm pretty sure.
They were having problems with that transmission on that one bus.
Is that what
That was
happened?
the same
Yeah,
one.
I think Brenton messaged me one day and said that the
We
bus
got-
broke down
gotta
at
go get
school. He's like, we're still here. Like, well, at least you were at school.
Yeah, it was Sarah's bus. I don't know if it's the same thing, but I remember he had to take some home. Just remember him on the radio.
It's the only question I had. Just
I-
just wondering what it was, you know, bus or
Yeah.
something major or something that's.
The only one my eyes gravitated toward was Kent's. It's a P card. It's for 3,858.03. It says CDW government. And I just,
Something with the computers.
Yes, so that is where we get some of our computers and that would have either been our Carl Perkins.
That's either Carl Perkins or us.
It's
Yeah.
Carl Perkins.
Yeah,
and my only other comment, and it brought to mind some comments Isaac's made in the past. It's great to have a chance every month to review these expenses, but you know, when I see a long list, one staff member, you know, Apple computers, Walmart. I wonder, are they given a budget?
Yeah.
Like, is the English department, you've got $2,000, so all these are authorized under, okay.
That kind of reminds me of a question that I wrote down here. I agree, we just run through these every month, but I'm more interested in what the procedure is for these cards, because, you know, it's like, does, like, say, Aaron and Andy, do you actually review this before we see it? So the people that you supervise, I assume you have to, if they're gonna spend something on their card, do they actually do, I can't remember what the name of the form is, we used to have to fill out if you had
Purchase order?
No.
Do they
No.
do anything? They just do it off the cuff and then we see it later? Do they get copies of their budget partway through or
Yes.
Some of the-
Keep an eye on it, so you know who's
Yeah,
Yeah.
over and stuff?
Some of the bigger expenses, and those are the ones that someone would run by, like, hey, I'm gonna use my P card for this, and sometimes we have to coordinate.
So
which
they,
one
but they don't have
use.
to document anything before or after they use the card, it's just there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they have to document.
After.
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
And do they make budget requests going into a school year? Would Lori Martin say the cost of lab kits has gone? I need
If there's
5,000.
increases or changes, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the decisions are made at your level about who gets what, you try to even, you know what money we have.
Yeah, things are pretty typical. If there's something out of the ordinary, that might be something different somebody needs, they come and say, hey, you know, this is what we're looking for next year, and then we can look at it and go from there.
Along a similar line, I mean, I think there's a number of things on the list tonight too about, you know, specific costs, that kind of stuff that's showing up, the lawn care, you know, gym floor cleaning, that kind of stuff. I mean, is that something we can, ideally, we've talked about this before, here's our capital expense plan for the year. These are all the things that cleaning and repairs, and this is the action plan for the year. I mean, it would just be nice to have that in place, and so, you know, maybe buildings and grounds can get more involved on the kind of specific items under a certain dollar value. If it's above a certain dollar value, that gets escalated to the board.
Yep.
Just so we're not necessarily kind of dealing with maybe smaller items on a regular basis, and when they're bigger, you know, we bring it to the larger board and have it in action.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I think that'd be helpful for me too, like, we're just kind of learning this first year as we go, what comes down. But yeah, and we were kind of talking about, that long bid as well, and where we can be doing other things instead of how it's always been.
Yep, that'd be great.
Mhm.
Just see it in context, because I feel like when we see it, it's like, all right, great, but if it's, you know, end of the year, this stuff adds
We
up.
can look at, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, these discussions are really good, especially, you know, with the budget issues we have, but thinking about that, maybe in a fuller picture, the quarterly or sometimes monthly budget updates are good. You know, we're able to see where we are and all the funds and accounts at a given time during the fiscal year, but you know, it might be good to build in sort of projections. Yeah, and we do that when we set the budget, right? But having a plan like that allows you in October, when we're setting that annual budget, to say, we're going to need an estimated $365,000 for these 3 maintenance projects. Because sometimes you go through this and you see expenses, you sort of lose track of what was last month, the month before, and it's just, yep, looks good.
Well, I think they've done a really good job in the past, like, roofs starting to get made. I mean, we've done a lot of things, so we're in a good spot. But I guess just looking forward to the next 3 or 4 years, I think we want to leave future boards in the same position where we've been on top of that, been proactive, spent the money when you have it, save the money when you need to. So whatever we can do to kind of get on top of that, I go and jump in and help.
Yep, I hear what you're saying. And I agree.
One quick question, this is tiny because the dollar amounts are tiny, but a bunch of the activity fund, the clubs, concession booth use and water, that's the money they made that goes into their activity fund, or are they renting the concession?
It's kind of like that, so the concession booth supplies like napkins, like the basics. So whenever a club uses it, there's just a flat fee to help cover those basics costs of napkins, boats, nacho cheese, water, that kind of stuff.
And that was actually worked out when they first started that booth. I remember when they were getting out, which one it was, maybe it was on ground. But that would be fair, that they pay the expenses and,
Well, I'm gonna make one other comment, and this was brought to me as I walked into the building earlier tonight by a parent. And just, I've had this thought in the past that maybe it's time we start charging for athletic events.
I've had that brought up to me this year too. Not the whole, since we stopped, I've never had it said until this year, and it's 2 different occasions people have mentioned it.
So maybe that could be a discussion item at the next meeting, Kim?
Yep.
The comment I had was, when I go anywhere else, I pay, so,
Yep.
I think we
You're
went
not
to a
benefiting
few
our
schools
future.
where we didn't have to pay, but.
Can we talk about it just, I feel like it was less than a year ago, we had that on the agenda and talked about the fact that now you have somebody that's gotta sit at the gate the whole time and.
Yeah,
Cash box.
We'll have to look at the cost thing of it too, because that's the other part is how much do you actually clear?
More school support and more people show up and, is there the cost to benefit ratio, is it there?
Well, when we look at it next, I figured, what I told them was we had set this policy for this year and
Look at it as.
we look at it every year, so.
On the Cooley conference and the MDC all went to, you have to pay on the app, you can't bring cash. Which
Six
for,
hours.
You have to pay what?
you can't, they have nobody with a cash box, you have to either take the app on your phone and pay on your phone.
So,
You can't get into a Cooley conference game with cash, you have to, and that,
so you show a ticket on your phone. It's like
Yeah,
going to
you
a
show-
bank.
Like going to Packard.
Yeah.
Yeah, have it on your phone.
but for
A lot
some
of
of
grandmas
the,
around might not.
some grandparents were not very happy with that. And some parents trying to teach their parents how to do it, weren't very happy with that.
Right.
I would not be very happy with that.
And that was done as the conference, so every place in West Salem is that way. At MDC is the same way now, everybody in Madison, I don't know if you told me that, some of the schools in Madison actually did the same thing, you have to pay at the concession stand with an app. So like, what do you do with your 12-year-old kid, you drop them off at the game, and here, take my phone so you can get a hot dog out of it.
Oh, sure.
I'm not sure that's the greatest idea, but I'm just saying I don't know if that's come up in any, you'd have to ask Kent of discussions for the
Well, I guess
Valley.
I mean, sometimes I wish I could use my debit card when I go to a game because I don't have cash on me, but.
And that's what they end up using, because we're going to a cashless society, obviously, and my nephew who's in the 6th grade had to get a debit card to be on the ski team.
Oh, jeez.
To buy.
But how do they do it? I mean, does conference have, so like,
They all have
example, so like I'll go to a theater and when I worked in Norway and I can go to the theater and pick a seat and pay with my credit card and I get something. That's different than having Apple Pay or all this other stuff.
Well, because I was still on the Westby School Board, I got a pass to get in, so I haven't had to do it.
So I had to do it.
You haven't, Becky
So,
has.
yeah, and that was what it was, like you go on GoFan, you purchase your
Okay, so
tickets.
just good, so you
And
don't
then
have
they-
to.
And there's a
Yeah.
fee for doing it too.
I don't think there was a fee. I
They
think it
probably
was
took,
just-
they probably took that into account when they
Cause it
set
was
that price.
$6 to get in, yeah.
So I've kind of derailed, but I like Janet's idea. We do discuss that every year, so no need to rush it. Maybe let's just have that discussion again going into next year. I like cash. I'm old, I guess. All right, then I guess we'll entertain a motion to approve expense vouchers and receipts.
Second.
Motion by Isaac, second by Janet. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item stands approved. A fairly short consent agenda tonight, including minutes from our February 14th regular board meeting and a letter of resignation from Tina Nelson. Any modifications to that agenda?
So if we don't approve, she can't.
Now
Sorry,
both
Tina.
her and Burdette.
I know, they're gonna go travel or something, aren't they?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Earl.
I'll second.
Motion by Earl, second by Bo to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. And our action agenda tonight, the first item, item A, a lawn care bid, and I think I heard we got a second bid.
We did, and that was kind of late today. We did have been working on it, he's not here today, so that was a loose paper that you had on the top of your packet, and then the other bid is in your packet.
Okay. And I guess I'll start discussion on this, just posing the question. This bid is $4,500, the other one was
Six of them.
is this necessary? Maintain safe and adequate lawns.
So I asked, I asked that same question, and so I sought out DJ and Kent to understand that they did feel it was a safety issue because the grub control prevents the moles from digging holes in their baseball field, and the softball field and the football field. So they said that they had years back on a spell without doing it, and it was kind of a mess.
Yeah, look like my yard.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the answer that I had gotten,
So where is 608 lawn care of?
the roadway.
Okay.
I think it's around Soldier Grove, actually,
Oh,
East Mills area.
And where was the other?
This, it says on the last.
Yeah.
one, it says Valley, so.
If you're not apples to apples here, you have 4 application versus 3 applications.
I
Has
noticed that.
DJ looked at both of these?
He's seen them both, yeah.
Yes, I have a deeper question than has DJ looked at, and has building and grounds and transportation, this is the kind of thing that they usually go over in the past, have gone over the bids. And so then it comes here with a recommendation. But I suppose we need a decision on this.
Can we just table it back to the buildings and grounds?
I would like to do that if there's nothing that imminent needs an application before the next meeting. This is only March, it should be.
Right, it should be okay.
That's great.
Before you start doing the action.
So can I make a motion to table it until, or do you want to make a motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Make a motion to table it until the buildings and ground committee can meet and
And
compare it,
maybe,
because I think he's got a good point on, the not maybe being apples to apples.
yep,
And maybe we get a chance to check them out, and then if they're new, they're local. Anyway, the motion is just to table it until buildings and grounds can review.
so motion by Janet to table and divert the building.
Second.
By means of a little additional discussion, not to position myself as a protector of all things environmental and human health, but I've always I mean, these are toxic chemicals, right? It kills grubs, and we've got students potentially barefoot sliding across the ground. It doesn't say anything about what the toxicant is. There's no material data safety sheet. Given that we're putting it on school grounds, it'd be nice to know if there are any human health effects. That my belief is if it kills something, it's probably not good for other somethings. And maybe the half-life is very short, maybe it's very targeted, I don't know, but could we find that out just so we. Okay, but we have a motion to send this back to buildings and grounds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There, that's where it's headed. Item B, under the action agenda, we have a bid in our packet for gym floor cleaning.
Take the same motion, the table that buildings and grounds.
If there's no,
I don't think there's a rush on it.
that's a motion also.
Motion by Isaac, second by Janet, to send to buildings and grounds as well. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item C, school bus use for the travel club trip in 2025. I think is where is that, Black Hills? Colorado. And there was a nice summary in the packet from, I think Megan.
Yeah.
Aaron, do you remember any other bus trips where we sent the school bus, would be what, 1,000 miles? I'm sorry, 2,000 miles, because they gotta go their way.
I don't remember, I
The
don't
only
think
thing I could
typically
think
till,
of that goes very far like that is FFA, and they take a coach bus and work with other schools.
right.
I guess there's two things here. One, this is a year in advance, and I'm not sure why we need to make a decision on that now, and I have a lot of trepidation of sending a school bus that many miles and stuff. I know it saves cost, but and it looks like the club in the activity report there has $31,000 raised, so.
I think
don't
some
know
of
what the
that is,
total cost of the trip is, but it looks like they're,
yeah, I think some of that in there is the kids' costs for the trip, part of that too.
oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all it is, I don't know. I don't know. We did have a request one other time, I don't know if Earl remembers this, to take a bus, it was a little further than this, because it was the art trip in the summer, and go to, I forget, like New Mexico or somewhere. It was turned down. But that's many years ago, I don't know,
I love the idea and I appreciate Jeff putting this out there
Yeah.
to save $9,000, but does it, we could look at this, the average mileage you get out of a school bus and then you add 4,000 to it. You kind of divide that by the cost of a bus, and there is a cost related to wear and tear on the bus that might offset some or all of that, I don't know.
Well, and if we contract with coach, if the bus breaks halfway there, then
Yeah.
they have to like get another bus there and keep going if the school bus breaks.
Well, and who's the liability insurance wise?
Yeah.
For the school district or where the coach, I'm sure that's all insured.
yeah, that's part of it, I mean, there's a reason the coach.
Yeah,
costs,
the
and
cost.
I agree, they're not cheap, but I just have some big concerns, plus, once we do something like this, we're gonna set a precedent, that's why I wanted to ask for sure that I didn't know, where they're.
Yeah, I don't remember any other.
We sent buses to Minneapolis and Chicago,
Right.
and that's about as far as I remember them going. Though I think maybe once upon a time, the FFA did drive their buses or drive buses, but.
So there are concerns, and I agree with Janet, we maybe don't need to act on this a year out, but maybe we could reflect these concerns to Megan and Jeff, and if they feel strongly about wanting to take a school bus, they could come back with a little more justification. I remember school buses not being very comfortable.
The kids are young.
And there's
still.
no bathroom.
I was gonna say the bathroom part is,
Yeah,
driving that far, you're gonna stop
Yeah.
200 miles for those that gotta go where.
I wonder.
I remember the band trips, with the coaches, I mean, you had a
Yeah.
bathroom in the back and. So you didn't stop, you just drove straight through that, I mean, so.
If it's okay, I'll recommend a motion that we table this, and
I can,
just reflect those concerns to Megan and Jeff, and if they feel strongly about taking the school bus, they can come back.
With some kind of recommendations on the wear and tear of the bus and kind of some of those other considerations. Besides mileage.
well, I would make that motion to.
Yeah.
table it.
I'll second.
Motion by Janet, second by Rich to table that, pending a little more communication around it. So we are what, 0 for 3 in terms of taking.
Oh,
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion passes to table item C. Item D is Bridging Better Smiles. This is an annual MOU. It's also included in the text.
This is consistent to what we have done for, I don't know how many years.
Been a while.
it's a good service for our students.
I'll make motion to approve.
I'll second.
So motion by Earl, second by Bo. And just by way of a quick discussion, I think this is a fantastic service, but what is there, this is the MOU, the backbone, but is there a cost?
Not to us.
Not to
Not
us,
to us.
it's, yeah.
Okay. Then all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We're on the board. Item E, weight room expansion. And I didn't, is there anything in the packet on this?
There isn't.
There's not.
Okay.
Ken Train's construction class is looking for a project. And the weight room, as it is right now, is kind of overcrowded with, because they've got quite a few people coming in, lifting weights and that. And some go around on the other side and work out. Well, that wall is about 5 foot with the glass above it, sealed division between the balcony and the pool area. And it's just hard to keep an eye on everybody in that. So what the construction company, but Ken wants his construction class as a project is to work at tearing it out. The wall, it's there out, so it opens it up.
So there'd be no wall between them.
There'll be no wall between what the weight room is and what used to be the pool wall.
The balcony, the aerobics room right now, they have a few exercise machines in there. So they just want one large space that has better visibility, more space for the students. And Ken indicated that as part of their class, they go through and look into the demolition permit, pull the demo permit. You know, get a work plan together for how they would remove the different pieces, parts, and then execute the work. And at the end of the day, it'd be essentially a zero cost to the school. The wall will be removed and you have a better environment for students, so.
Do they already know it's
Still-
not structural?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
so that-
But it would still be
Windows and that
closed
wall.
in,
the pool, yeah, there's still a wall
So.
separating the pool from that space.
Over here.
And there's the wall
There's
behind
another
it.
So there's
They'll
like a
have
little
seats
narrow.
Okay.
separated.
Yeah,
It's
I
all
think-
separated out.
So it's just an internal wall.
I think
It's just a 5-foot wall?
Well, it's got the glass above
the
it. It all comes out.
plank buttress is still there.
Yes,
They're
it's
still
got,
there. They have to
it's
come
got wood wall, it's got a concrete beam that runs within the wall, there's concrete buttresses that used to hold up the bleachers, and then there's glass curtain wall above, so. It's a large project, I mean, good for Ken and the kids for having the ambition to do it, 'cause it's gonna be a lot of work.
Can they do it and keep using the weight room, or they would have to do it quickly and the weight room be shut for
It would need to
weeks,
be,
or?
it would need to be closed while they do it, he did not present a schedule for that yet, I think that's probably part of what they would be doing.
Yeah, they were just seeking, is this a possibility, can we?
So, I think we were all aligned that it seemed like a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. It's that kind of hands-on applied I guess my only question is there any liability?
Now that's
You're taking,
the glass out, that's a question we need to find out on that, because that glass will not be like,
yeah,
I mean, the smaller panels won't be bad, but bigger panels, because it's a 2-panel deal.
I mean, when we hire contractors, I assume one of the requirements is a, $1 million liability policy, and in this case, where our own students are doing serious demolition work, is there?
Yeah, as far as safety equipment and things that they would have to have, that might be the only thing, just to make sure they have it. I mean, I think we all have some hard hats we could bring.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, the wood walls underneath that won't be the problem to take out, it's just, once, get the glass out, then the rest of it.
It's really the glass that's the biggest concern, and maybe that's something Ken should look into, is just,
Yeah.
is that something we wanna contract out separately, just so that risk is not on the students?
Right, and I think, didn't he mention him and DJ would look into the glass,
With the glass.
so he was aware, yeah.
And one other, I'll just share this, so I've had something that relates to this maybe, but maybe that Ken's class could also think about, and this is not a new issue, every school has it, every wrestling team has it, but I've been not cornered, but I've been approached by 2 wrestling coaches in the last few weeks. And they're both, they weren't frustrated, they were just saying, wrestling's a hard sport because our athletes, unlike other athletes, have to spend a half hour rolling or unrolling mats and deciding where they're gonna have practice. And fundamentally, it seems like for whatever reason, schools aren't designed to accommodate wrestling. There's always a gym built and there's, other facilities. But like the new multi-purpose room that we built in conjunction with the pool remodeling project, if that's reserved for somebody, apparently they have to roll the mats up and put them away, and then they have to roll them back out and get them taped and everything for practice. And there's not enough room in there for now both the boys and girls teams, so this is where it links to this project. The girls apparently have been practicing up there, above the gym in that weight room area. And whatever project commences to expand the weight room, there's a girls wrestling team that uses that. And does it impact them wherever they go?
Are they
Well,
practicing
wrestling's
now?
over.
I was gonna say, are they using it still during the off season?
No,
No,
I'm not saying the project would impact them, but however it results.
Oh,
Ends
will
up
that
being
be a
set up.
dedicated area that?
They're using the space behind the bleachers, between the wrestling and bleachers, right? That
Yeah.
right now is being used by softball.
With the screen,
With the
cage.
screen.
Oh,
That's the space
that's
they're
a
using.
different
Yeah,
area.
they're not the weight room.
It'll be in the same.
We're not taking the space. that they're
Okay,
using.
I just raised that in case there's gonna be exercise machines bought or placed together. But I guess I would just throw it out there that, the wrestling coaches, we've now got a second wrestling team essentially with the girls program. And one of the coaches said there's 100 elementary students taking part in the elementary wrestling program, so they need room. And
Well, they
he
used
said
the
they're-
cafeteria, the elementary cafeteria before we had the multi-purpose rooms. I don't know that anything has
Still do.
moved in and using that, so.
that's still where they are, aren't they?
I don't know.
Elementary practicing.
And like I said, I remember going to basketball practice in the gym and all the wrestlers would be in the lunchroom unrolling mats 30
That's
years
what-
ago. It's kind of
School
part and
was
parcel,
when that
but it's an extra burden, of course, for those athletes that folks in other sports don't have to
Yeah,
do.
we used to, wrestling was up in the balcony when I was here.
Yeah,
it can be it's their warm up, right? Before practice.
It's pretty good.
I shouldn't say that I have a wrestler,
It's the
but
nature of the sport.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you
yeah.
say we never take the mats together for practice or anything, we just have them butted against each other and practice on, we never had them tape them every time, that's. The only time we taped them was when we had them meet and when we rode them out on the gym floor, we taped them, that was the only time, otherwise they just butted them against each other.
Well, I think those mats that they use in that room are like extremely old. So they may not stay where they're supposed to is why they tape them, but I've watched them wrestle in there. I haven't ever asked about it, but
Well, I mean, in a world of financial difficulties, I think we have to find as many multi-purpose uses for things as possible. And I think right now we've got more facilities than we've had in the past that are accessible. I mean, this is coming from a former wrestler that had to do all that stuff. Right now you have, 3 different spaces that are available to do that for that team, and I think it's great that they have the interest. But unfortunately, I just don't know what else we do to add more space today.
It's surprising, and I'm not recommending a new construction project. And it is, like I said, it's an ages old issue that's shared by a lot of schools, but I had those discussions, so I wanted to share. Sounds like this project doesn't.
If we use as many projects, or as many spaces as we can for as many things, it's great. And I think the weight room will help them as well. It's more space for those people to be doing weight exercise, while other people are doing different exercises. So I think it's a step in the right direction.
Was the board likely to look into insurance liability for having students do construction projects with their insurance company? I can certainly do that and pass that information along.
It's worth knowing, I think.
This wouldn't happen until summer probably, right? Anyway.
No, I'm guessing.
His class is gonna.
Sooner is class, right?
Oh,
As soon as possible, is my guess. Am I right, Sharon?
Yeah, yep, I think we'd like to try to, cause he won't have kids here in the summer, so.
Yeah.
I'm not really comfortable voting unless we have an answer to the liability,
Well, and probably a schedule. I mean.
Yeah.
the schedule, yeah. So this is on the action agenda. Do we want to defer this decision for a month? Would that be problematic for Tim? Do we have a little more?
Well, I guess the other thing is you could do is table it back to the Buildings and Ground Committee. It's a low cost, so if we can get them to have the answers that they need, can that committee make a recommendation? Or can they make?
To
the
go ahead and
approval?
do it before our next meeting.
You need school board approval. if we're
It's not a money thing, so I don't know that there'd be any reason to have it come to the board. It would just kind of be how the board feels. Do we say for this item, just delegate the decision? They know, maybe they've expressed Isaac's expressed most of the concerns and
Well, I could be
heard
wrong,
our
but I know what
concerns.
the insurance company's gonna say.
No.
We're not covering any of it.
Yeah.
There
So
are
would you
a lot of
rather just
schools-
come back?
Oh,
to
no,
the
I'm just
board?
saying, but I mean, no, I completely trust the building and ground,
I-
but I'm pretty sure with the,
I think
haven't
it will
been
be
in your
interesting though, because there's a lot of schools where their shop classes do construction projects and lots of things, so I don't know where that would fit in, but there's a ton of
Yeah.
schools all over that build houses and,
yeah,
all kinds of things, so there definitely has to be some caveat with it to
Yeah,
allow it
Richmond
for
Center
sure.
always had, their industrial arts classes, they always did construction. I know we built a house in Richmond Center one time, we did a garage one place, and they even built a house.
Yeah, some of those schools, they do that every year.
So, I mean, that was their, part of their architecture
Yep.
construction project, and so I don't know how they, the liability on that or that.
well, I'm sure there's all kinds of, I mean, some of the equipment they use is dangerous, so it just falls under that. Right, it'd be the same liability if they're using that equipment for.
Well, it's just like in the classroom, they use the power saws, they use the planer, they use everything in there, even the tech ed. Are using the tire changer and all that, there's a liability there, if they're using all that, so I mean, are we? Is that, our insurance gonna cover if somebody gets hurt when they're changing and using the tire changer or stuff like that, I mean, basically, it's not quite the same, but it is the same,
Mhm.
so.
So now I've totally flip-flopped. I agree. They're already using power tools and equipment, and it's part of the curriculum. It's under the guidance of a knowledgeable, trained teacher, so I'm comfortable now voting on this. And I wasn't 2 minutes ago. Good discussion.
Could you just approve it and say yes, and if we find out a different answer or something, then
You will.
Ken knows it would have to then be tabled.
My only concern with the insurance thing would be the fact that it's not necessarily within the course of their instruction, within their instructional day. Are they?
It's in their
Oh, they are
instructional
gonna do it.
Yeah, it's during the day.
I
It's
thought they
going to
were
be-
coming in like. in-
No,
No,
it's gonna be during
Okay.
class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
just like any other, when they go down and
Okay.
build or,
And the Janet's right, they did help.
Yeah, they did,
Yeah.
they did,
yeah, there's tons of things they've.
Well, and, yeah, I think we could just, I'm comfortable approving it
Yep.
too, and then, but get a schedule and, leave it to administration. If there's some issue comes up, we'll trust you to put a stop to it.
So I will entertain a motion to approve item E.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Rich, second by Isaac. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Item is approved. And the last item on the action agenda. You've all probably read about the success of our
Yes.
robotics teams at the Seaforth competition, and there's plans to take some students to Washington DC for nationals. I didn't see an item in here, is there anything in the
Yeah,
packet?
a little bit of-
I,
Notes.
just on the notes, yeah, and it was basically that this is the first step to get approval to actually go to DC.
Oh, okay.
Because we realize that they're traveling quite a distance.
So what, this is just, we're approving that they do the
That they're,
trip. So that they
yes, if
can.
you want to fundraise and earn that money, you
Okay.
earned that status, you may go. I guess is what it is.
Well, if that's the case, I'd make that motion. I thought we were maybe discussing a few other things, but if it's just that, yeah, you're. I think you've got permission to go, we'll figure it out. I certainly make a motion to approve that.
Yeah,
I would
and-
second, yeah.
And then I would assume there will be some fundraising
Yeah.
that will come for approval. And I think trying to maybe collaborate with some other businesses in the area
Yeah.
to see if they would want to support.
I know that's what Richland, I think was Richland Center has done this, I think, 1 year, because that, they went and solicited businesses.
Oh,
mostly
sure.
For donations.
So I would like to give them approval, given the dates, to start fundraising now. I don't think they have to come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
for permission.
Make that part of the motion that we move to approve the trip for them to go to nationals and begin fundraising.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Janet, second by Rich to approve the trip, I guess, just by way of discussion, one little point. So that's coming up in 6 weeks.
Yep.
So $5,000, $7,000, whatever, it's a
It's a big chunk.
chunk of money to raise. If they don't even have a fundraising plan at this point, if they're gonna sell something, they gotta order it, order forms that. So I hate to give approval. I assume they've got to register for the competition, and that may cost money
And
and
to schedule flights and
reserve
stuff, yeah.
hotels.
It's
She
only
said
1,000 miles.
she needed to provide verification that their team will accept the spot within the 7-day
No.
period.
So that in order for them to register and get the spot, we need to.
Prove it today, yeah.
And I'm worried that we'll approve it, they'll get the spot, and then
Is-
fundraising.
Is
falls
there
through.
a club or something for that?
Physics club.
Um,
Yeah, they have
That's what I
somebody
was
in
do they
there.
have-
She had kind of ideas of what they could fundraise at. You had that Kim do a Papa Murphy's share night, bake sale, t-shirt sponsorship, which would bring in quite a little bit. Culver share night, Ace Car Wash and Brat Stand, Quick Trip script cards and Older Sports Mayhem, I guess, to work that. And they have 1,500 now in their, about 1,500 in their physics club account.
And we thought out a number of businesses that she would see that have been typically very supportive of our students and
How much is in the business?
About 1,500.
Yeah, I guess typically these are activity fund type supported trips, right? Wish them luck, but.
Cause is that what the wrestlers did with those shirts, right? They had those t-shirt night on parents' night, they went out and asked. They did sponsors for the t-shirt. So everybody they paid a certain amount, I think, I don't know exactly how they did it, but they went out and got donations or sponsorship money. And then they got the t-shirts printed and then gave the t-shirts out to all of the home. They didn't even sell the t-shirts, they gave them because they were all sponsored. So they made a whole bunch of fundraising money from the sponsorship. And then. Yeah, gave the t-shirts out, so if they were to do something like that again,
Mhm.
that, I mean, I don't think that took them very long to get in motion either. Not like selling popcorn or pizzas or, you know, like things that other clubs do.
Well,
So is Lori Martin the staff person involved with this?
Yeah.
we've got a motion on the table to approve, so I guess, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes, and congrats to all those students. Moving on then to the informational agenda, and I have to ask, has that clock been set ahead?
That's accurate.
Yeah.
Is it, I'm doing
You're doing.
doing great, 1 hour.
Behind last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. First discussion item, as we got into a little bit previously, the town hall meetings, village board meetings, et cetera, related to the referendum, just an update. Maybe we just go around and everybody were to chime in on whether or not they were able to attend meetings.
Well, a lot of us went last night, I think, so, Town of Forest was very easy, they had some questions, but, it was basically just the town board and one citizen who happens to be a retired educator, so. Just some questions about how the only questions really were about how the voucher things affected us and did homeschool kids get counted in any way. They seem to grasp the inflation and the fact that since 1990, or since, what was it, 2009, that the revenue limits hadn't been adjusted for inflation at all, so. In fact, one of the town board members compared it to that idea that, you know, so we lost 20 students, why can't you just cut something, you know, cut staff member or whatever? Well, like we've said, you know, it's a couple of students here and a couple there, you can't not run second grade. And they kind of compared it to a road, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we may have 10, 15 homes there, and, you know, people living there, and now we've got 6 or 7. That means we spend half as much on plowing the road. And so they had some questions, but.
I guess I attended the Sylvan Town Board meeting last night. Similarly good questions and certainly sympathetic to the situation the school finds itself in. They did raise a couple points that I thought were good. First of all, they emphasized that we're a board too, and we're given a budget, and it has not increased, and we have the same jobs, the same roads to put gravel on and salt and plow, and you know, why can't you guys essentially stay within a budget like us?
Did they explain how they did it?
No, they didn't get into
Yeah,
those types of details.
They do less plowing and they do less salt. They don't upkeep some roads, so I mean, they're not doing the same job at half the cost.
And so it was a good discussion. I wasn't there long. It was 15 minutes or so. But you know, they made one other interesting point that we're all aware of. But one of the members at the end just said, coming off COVID and 8% inflation and how it's impacted everybody's pocketbooks, it's just a hard time to propose something like this. We all understand that, but I think that's true.
Tom Bloom, other than board and mothers. A couple always comes out with town board meetings anyway, but handed them out the leaflet and they had not ever gotten one. And so I asked how that happened. Well, whoever gets the names and does it. So anyway, so they had no knowledge that, you know, what we're doing or anything. So other than that, the board was pretty understanding what we're doing in that. Of course, one of them was at our meeting at the listening session, so he asked questions that night. So he had, you know, quite a few. His questions were answered in that, and Other than that, they were all pretty positive on the fact that if we wanna keep our school, we need to take and pass a referendum to keep it, cause if you don't, then someplace down the line, you don't have a school, then you don't have a community to relate with, so. And that's why most of your Ithaca or Lafarge are strong supporters of anything they've ever done, because they wanna keep their own identity there, because I mean, Ithaca's, about this, maybe 6 miles from Richardson Center, and so, I mean, that's kind of the same idea, so they've all both passed referendums to keep their identity, more or less what it is, and keep their students and school going, so.
The town start tonight, there was no community members there, very few families, I think, from the district in that township. But still, I mean, the board was asked a bunch of questions, seemed supportive, and then obviously the comment about just alignment between our two schools, and, I think there's some positive feelings on sharing of, Spanish teachers and that kind of stuff has been really well received, so, that was the extent of the conversation.
Town of Kickapoo, I went last night, there were a few, people from the public there. I think that actually the board was really surprised at how many people showed up, because they usually get like 1 or 2. But it was mainly just a couple of the board members asked a couple questions, about like open enrollment, how many kids we had in the school, how many kids open enrolled to, how many out. They were interested to hear about the voucher program. That's something that I don't think a lot of people know or understand. And the grumpy guy didn't even say no, so, he didn't say anything bad or, there was one grumpy guy, yeah, the guy that was like totally against putting UTV, letting them use the UTV roads, or the roads for UTVs, and yeah, he scared me a lot. I'm like, oh, he's gonna say something, because if his taxes go up, he's gonna be so mad, and he didn't, he just like, okay. So.
Thanks, Greg, you both.
I'm going to Franklin on Monday, and that's in Liberty Pole. Barrett Froylan, who used to go to Kickapoo, talked to him quite a bit, and the other people on the board are more Baroka people, so I think it's gonna be an interesting dynamic, and I've talked to Barrett quite a bit, and looking forward to going. I think I'm well prepared, and just talking to Rich a little bit, I really appreciate Rich's points, and just like the value of going. I just said, Rich, what do you think the value is of going? Everybody's talking to 4 or 5 people, and it's bigger than that, and we're trying to listen to people, and you never know what conversation that leads to with somebody else, and it's a bigger picture. So I'm looking forward to going, and I'm really glad Barrett will be there.
Talked to the town of Liberty Monday night. It was informational, so really no questions. I just tried to go through the factual points, and people appreciate the information. Adrian had a couple comments like he talked tonight after I was done, but other than that, I think people understand what we're facing. No one likes their property taxes going up, but I think most people understand. I think a key point Adrian brought up is the listening sessions, the 2 we've done and the one that's coming up are important and very good. I mean, you said it's a good communication between the administration board and the community, and it's getting the information out there. So those were definitely worth the time. And, a couple of people asked when the one is on the 19th. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, right? In the auditorium.
Yeah, one of the board members brought that up, that we had another listening session that if anybody needs to go in that. And then I've also found out that they're in Hillsborough district, but her niece is actually the Spanish teacher that we got.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I had no connection between them, so she thought it was pretty nice that we do co-op, you know, like that part with the teachers and that, and wondered if maybe somewhere you could do a little bit more of that, instead of each of you have your own. I said, well, that's what we've always looked at, is if we can work together between the school, two schools, because we're close enough together that we've done it before, and it'd be great to, you know, help out each other that way, so. Absolutely. That was kind of a point she made, so.
No, I talked to the clerk, I'm on for Reed's Town tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
And I saw your name attached to a couple.
Yes, I'm there next week, so I have not gone yet, but I am, should be on the agenda.
I was in the village office, so I checked.
Okay.
Next week for you, Janet? Or
But
you
yeah,
already- Yep.
I'll go.
Janet and I are together,
We're going.
yes, good, I tried to call and I didn't get anybody, but I am on Webster. And then I think Union was the other one that we weren't quite sure when the meeting was, but we located that today.
March 20th at 7 at the Union Town Hall. I have the information here if anybody wanted it.
You can do it.
Well, thanks, everybody. Those are a little additional time,
I
but
tried to
like
turn
Bo
this.
suggested, really
You
important.
guys want to follow move when you know.
Part of the communication strategy we developed, and I guess just a couple parting notes related to that. I really appreciate the communication that's come out from the district office. I know Kim, Melissa, Allison, Marla, the brochures, and there's so much information to distill. Like we were talking a bit ago, Peggy and I had a discussion. It's hard to really understand, even as a board member, the ebbs and flows and complexities of a school budget. And the referendum itself, capital versus operational recurring, there's so much to communicate. And try to do so in a way that the public understands, so they can make a good decision for themselves and their community. I really think you guys have done a great job, fantastic job with the communications that have come out. And then so I appreciate that. And then the only other addition to what you guys have already done is Kim and I scheduled the other day, slot on WRCO, the morning show, which has been
When are you gonna
recommended
be
by a couple.
March 20th, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. You talking for the whole hour or half of it?
We took the whole time.
Because River Valley's is just on, Monday, they're talking about their two referendums that they're putting through. And had some of their, students on with them, with the administrator.
Oh, great idea.
Discussion on, because part of theirs is, one of the referendums is on, a theater.
Fine arts center.
Fine arts center, and so a lot of their students that are in the plays and that, which brought the fact that they gotta rent someplace to do it, and
And they're fortunate enough to have a community theater downtown, and wondering if they can do that.
plus then they're gonna be able to use that. They do it, because they got so many people come for the graduation, because there's classes big, they can take and have it live streamed into the auditorium if people wanna sit in a comfortable seat compared to sitting on bleacher seats. I thought, okay. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the, you know, school districts, well, like Riverdale, our Richmond Center are on referendums, so they've been on, I've heard them a couple different times on morning show, so.
Ask a question about referendum. Like, so when I was looking over, like, all of the districts that are doing referendums, some of them are doing non-recurring, some are doing recurring, but some are doing something debt.
Debt is what the pool was when we did it. Debt is sometimes called capital. That's when
Okay.
you're gonna go borrow money. You're gonna
Okay.
either bond and borrow it or go.
Okay, because there's multiple schools that are doing both.
Yes.
I was like, whoa. And the numbers, I was just like, wow.
And then, so appreciate the positive comments about the informational sessions. I have attended both, or one full one and the second half of the last one, and a lot of good communication, a lot of respectful, professional communication. And there is one more coming up the 19th.
Yep, the 19th at 9.
So.
We tried to hit a variety of times and days, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, again, appreciate the effort and time, everybody, but it's all about communication, and I think we've.
Well, I guess in the effort of just understanding the clarity, there's, two questions posed to us here. Just so I can understand and answer this question in the future, I guess the first question was asked is kind of the difference, in our revenue versus expenditures versus the tax levy. And just so I understand it, as we've talked about this a lot, the reason that our, expenses are going up by 10% versus the tax levy is going up is because our funding, our money from the state is decreasing,
Right.
and our number of students is decreasing. So therefore, the money coming in is down, and so therefore the tax money is offsetting.
Yes.
Because you still have a revenue limit and
That's
that
clear.
pot gets filled by the state and taxes, and you're exactly right, it is.
Because they give us less money, our expenses
We
keep
have
going
to-
up, so therefore the
We have to
tax burden
tax
on
them
our
more.
residents is higher because the state's not giving us enough money to keep up with the other expenses.
A lot of that has to do with the number of students, because that revenue limit is based, it's that $11,000 times so many students. So as you lose students, you're losing that revenue.
And we're projecting
Limit.
47 less students in 4 years based on the Baird model, right? Not 80 or whatever else. I heard the
I
numbers. flying
don't
around.
have it off the top of my head.
No, not 80. I think they were taking several years together throwing those larger numbers, but those are very conservative numbers.
What the student decline, that's like what we anticipate as being probably the worst case.
Sure.
We can't guarantee that, but yeah. But
But that's what we had projected based on the Baird model was,
Yeah.
I'm looking back
The
what we had
classes.
before. It wasn't an 80 student decrease, it's under 50
right,
and distributed over 12 grades. We're talking, 3 students per grade, so.
Right, so you
Not enough.
graduate out a
Yep.
larger number and take in a smaller number, so yeah, it's scattered
It's,
through the
but it's
years.
distributed through the year, so it's
Yeah.
not like we're getting 40 students, we can cut out 2 classes, this is 3 students, so our class sizes, we're trying to maintain as reasonable class sizes, so our teachers still want to teach.
Right, right.
And I think one of the comments that came up at Bloom is, well, what are you gonna do with the extra money if you don't need it when you get it? We're not gonna get the money, right?
Right.
That's the big thing we talked about at Bloom was, if we don't need that money, that
Well,
doesn't
it's
get
only
taxed,
level,
it doesn't
levy.
come to us, it stays in the taxpayers. And the community is part of our annual review process, so the community can come in and make sure they have all the oversight they want. We break that down, and we do a great job identifying all the costs the school district has. And encourage participation from the community to come in and see those costs and have their voice heard at those times of what we're spending our money on. I
Right,
think we've
the
been-
annual meeting is, meant exactly.
The time to see all that broken out in very great detail.
Mhm.
So I just, that's my understanding of it. I just want to make sure that we're
Yes,
all aligned with what that is.
And it seems like it'd be very easy to put together a line chart showing that, correct? I mean, here's what we project our costs, the revenue going down based on students, and then what we're doing for funding to show that, and if it could be done by the 19th, that'd be, here's a simple way to see that.
but like I probably do like a pie chart, like I do for the annual meeting where it shows. Cause one of the things was to break it out by category, salaries, benefits, purchase services. And I always have that in the annual meeting packet. As a exploded pie chart, showing the revenues, where they're coming from, and the expenditures, where they're going.
I think if you're referring to what Adrian's comment was about what he wanted there, I think that pie chart makes sense, but that was, if I remember right, I wrote down at the time, the percentage of what the new money would be used for.
Yeah, so I think,
Yeah,
like, so overview, it said, okay, cost is increasing by 10%, but you're increasing taxes by 128%. I think that line chart would
Yeah.
show why. And then, the second question of, okay, if you get this additional funding for the referendum, what's it gonna be spent on? that pie chart you're talking about shows
Would
the
show that.
percentages of where that money goes.
Right, and I believe when I built that, it's not gonna really change the percentage of where that money's going. Because, you know, it's not gonna greatly increase, you know, salaries and benefits or insurance costs. There's gonna be some differences because, you know, we anticipate changes to insurance that always goes up and never down. Salaries by their nature do have to go up, you know, but it's not like by huge amounts.
Yeah.
So the general overall rough percentages of where the money's going are gonna remain the same.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
costs
we're
more.
just getting
Yeah, it
less
just costs more.
money, and so that's why we need taxes to
Right,
keep paying those bills.
right.
That is an important point to communicate, and I don't know if this is the basis of Adrian's question, but that kind of came up at Sylvan last night. What are you gonna spend the money on? And it's an operational referendum, so it's to maintain operations. And you can look at the pie chart as presented at the last annual meeting. This is where our big expenditures are, and the referendum will help us sustain these programs and staffing and whatnot. But I think some people are thinking of this kind of analogous to a capital referendum where, oh, we're giving you more money, are you gonna build a gym, or what's the
No,
extra?
yeah, and I
And
think
it's
that's
not
part of it too, this is to maintain the current programs and the current quality of education. It does, I did make that point at Forest last night, it's not do anything new, we don't.
Yeah,
It's not like we're putting
I
money-
said that too about how like we're gonna be losing all that ESSER funding too next year, so like those positions, if we want to keep them, we need to be able to pay for that somehow, so. And they're like, people didn't necessarily know that we had that, you know, that's something that was going away, cause they're like, well, when is that, you know, when is that going to be done? And at the end of the school year, we don't have that anymore, so.
But I think it's important to remember that every position we hired, we had the discussion, we're not hiring it because we had ESSER.
No,
It
right.
was, this is a important position, we have ESSER that we can fund it now, but we're gonna need whatever later.
Yeah,
Hey, good discussion. Thanks for pushing it to that. Isaac. Any other thoughts on the referendum, the communication? Then we'll move on to Act 20 update, and Andy is tabbed for this.
Your guys' conversation, Melissa she needed to order, we ran out of some different colors of construction paper. Because Lucas asked me, he's like, is this the construction paper you ordered? Yeah, and then Lucas took off. And I should have wrote the numbers down, but I think this is right. It used to be for 100 sheets of a thing of, it was like $1 a pack. It's $5 now a pack. That's gone up in that last part. So when you talk about where costs are going,
To buy
Yeah,
the same stuff.
just to get the same stuff that we had before is almost 5 times expensive. Anywho, I will try to enlighten you on the beautiful Act 20. So Act 20 was passed by the state legislature to improve reading. I don't want to say reading scores, because that's, to me, that's not the point, is to improve reading performance of students in the state of Wisconsin. And it's a state mandate, and there's a bunch of things that go with it. The main idea is to focus instruction on the science of reading, which is, how should I say this? Code to make phonics more important in the teaching of reading. Kim and I have both been in this long enough that when I started, I remember we were at a meeting and Nan Alexander was there, who had taught for probably 30 years at that time. And Nan sat back and goes, oh, we've done this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, Andy, it's just a big circle. And now I've been in it long enough to understand what she meant. When we started, it was, a lot of the stuff we did was really phonics based. And then there was a movement to whole language where kids kind of looked at the pictures and you kind of guessed the word. And to me, that never made a whole lot of sense. Probably because I had reading disabilities when I was little. And then now it's kind of, people realize, well, that's too far one way. And it's just a big circle. And so what's happened is, and I don't really disagree with what the state has done. I think putting focus on improving kids' ability to read is important. But that's, when you hear the code word science of reading, that's what it is. Science of reading is to make sure that kids are getting systematic phonics instruction in their reading program. So as part of Act 20, what they have done is they have recommended curriculums that the state is supposed to have, or that I shouldn't say that the state is supposed to have, that the DPI and the legislature have agreed upon that are considered following the science of reading. Now, naturally, the DPI and the legislature have not been able to agree on what those are. The legislature came out with 4 that they said, these are the 4 you should follow. And the DPI has a list of 11 that they say you're supposed to follow. And inside of that, there's a caveat that those are recommended, you don't have to follow them. But if you will change your curriculum and you will get one of those, they will pay 50% of your, up to 50% of getting that new curriculum. A new curriculum for us is, when we got it in 2020, was $60,000. Now, when we got our new reading curriculum in 2020, we went to CISA. There's a website where you can go through and it rates the curriculums. And we made sure that ours followed the science of reading. Now, the official list, it says one of them that is approved is Into Reading V2, which I'm taking as volume 2. And the copyright for that is 2020. We have Into Reading volume 1, copyright 2020. I can't find any difference in them. So I am 97.5% sure that we're fine. And we don't have to make that, I mean, the state isn't forcing us to change anything anyway. But the reading curriculum that the board bought has, there are different things online that we can follow and different assessments we can do. There's a thing called WAGL, which takes the kids based on their reading ability and it will assign skill-based work that they need. And there's all kinds of phonics instruction. There's phonics instruction in 5th grade, and I taught it for 2 years. So we're following what needs to be followed. So that's part of it, is the curriculum that you have to follow. The second part is that all teachers from 4K through 3 need to be trained in the science of reading. So what we did was, to try to save the district money, is because the last of that ESSER money, if it can be September, whatever it was. So what the staff decided to do is that, and that's why those dates are up there, is we're actually gonna kick it off the Friday. Oh, because we also have teachers having babies, I gotta move this up here. So we're gonna kick it off. We're gonna do state testing for the 2 weeks in April when we get back after Easter. And then we're gonna have a movie on the 18th upstairs to kind of celebrate being done testing. Even though the state testing is only 3, 4, and 5, all the 1st graders and kindergartners and everybody's gonna go up there, because I'm gonna make the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers watch them, or 4th and 5th grade teachers watch everybody, so that they can do the kickoff and we can start. So I think it's 36 hours of training that the teachers have to do online. And then there's 2 days in person. So July 24th, we're gonna meet for the day, and then August 15th. So we will have our training completed by August 15th, so we can use that ESSER money instead of trying to find other money. So that will be taken care of. As the principal and the reading specialist, we have to take 6 days of training, 3 days in person and 3 days online. I will look into that later. It all has to be done before the end of next summer. But I'll make sure that's taken care of. We're going to do the letters training, which is, there's a certain number of different programs that the DPI said you have to follow. I also read something where it said that CISA can't provide that, which seemed confusing since CISA was the one that set everything up. So when I reached out to Jim Addison, who's in charge of this, Jim said, nope. He goes, CISA can't make their own thing up, but CISA can follow through and do the letters training. So everybody in the elementary will be taken care of by the end of the summer to start the new year. And I have to figure out a time that CISA that works for me. Another part that that the legislation calls for is that there has to be a standardized screener for all kids in K through 3. Well, we do that with FastBridge now. So when I show you guys the data, that's the FastBridge screener. And now the state says that's not good enough, so the state said that every kid in every school has to use the same screener. And it's gonna start on September 1st. And the state hasn't decided what that screener is or trained anybody how to use it. Cause that's
Did
kind
they,
of,
did they push that back or
yeah,
something?
so they're gonna push that back.
Okay.
So they're, I don't even know if they voted on that first, but it's not gonna work. You can't start on September 1st when they haven't decided what they're gonna do. Well, they could try, but that's gonna get pushed back. And then the follow-up will, then the next part of that is any child that doesn't score in at least the 25th percentile will have to have their own individualized reading plan. And there has to be contact with the parents and let the parents know what the remediation is to help those kids learn to get above that 25th percentile. We're doing that already. So like when I show you that data, I could have brought it in, but I didn't want to waste your time. I have all the kids listed on FastBridge who scored below the 10th percentile and then below the 20th percentile. And I have them listed in where their scores are. And then on the first Thursday of every month, I meet with Katie and Taylor and Tracy and Sherry, the interventionist. And I sit down, I go around each classroom and make sure, am I missing anybody? What are you seeing? And then I sit down with them who are doing their extra reading instruction and we go through to make sure where they're at. So that, to me, it isn't really changing anything for me, except I need to make sure that everybody gets trained on the screener that's coming from the state, which they don't know what it is yet. And then I've read a few different places that they will come out and they will give you a form that you need to fill out for anybody who's below the 20th percentile and say what steps you are doing to reach that. So that's just a matter of waiting for them to get their stuff to me so I can follow through on that. But I don't think it's bad. I really don't. I mean, I'm not great on or half-funded state mandates. But it's what we're trying to do anyway. We don't want any kids below the 20th percentile in a read program, and that's why we have Taylor, that's why we have Tracy, and that's what we spend all of our time trying to do, is trying to make sure that those targets are hit. To make sure we get kids as fast as we can above that. That's why we changed what we did in kindergarten this year. It'll just be a matter of making sure that I'm smart enough to understand exactly what needs to be filled out and make sure we get it to the parents so that gets taken care of. And we're already with our tiers of support, that's what we're doing. And that same thing is I need to figure out a way to make it. I told the teachers, I think my job is to try to make their job as easy as possible. So that's because I want them to be able to teach and use their expertise. So what's the easiest way to incorporate this that doesn't waste their time filling out paperwork instead of working with kids? And once we have that figured out, once we get it from the state, that we'll be able to figure that out. But that's what Act 20 is. It's to make sure that, and it's the right thing. You want to get as many kids as possible above the 20th percentile in reading. I think we're doing a lot of that stuff already. And so I don't think, and I'm in the classrooms, everybody is doing phonics now. We're doing that. It's not like we weren't teaching phonics. So the letters training, I think is going to be incredibly boring. Watching 36 hours of videos, but Sherry Von Ruden's daughter had to take it at Madison and she said, yeah, there's some really good stuff in there. So, and that's why we wanted to get it so that's their timeline on the wall. But Jim said if somebody wants to sit down and plow through all 36 hours, have at it. You can do it right away. And then there's quizzes and stuff to go through to make sure you get checked off. I think it's going to improve reading. I think it's going to improve reading instruction. And then I think the training for me will also help me be able to focus on specific things in the classroom and make sure we're doing. But any questions? I know that's kind of fast, but that's what Act 20 is, and that's what they've sent at us so far.
My only comment is what I always have when things are graded by just percentiles and not just an ability, a level. You need to get, this somehow measurable. There's always gonna be 20% down there. I mean, you can take a kid that's in that low 20%, and you can increase his score, a raw score way, tremendously, but if everybody else increased,
Well,
they still be bottom 20.
I think they're gonna do the 20th percentile on the whole,
Yeah, but there's,
Yeah.
it's just.
And it's probably more adaptive,
yeah,
and to recognize where kind of like our, they continue to increase the ability level to,
Which is okay, but I mean, as far as what's mastery.
if you're
you know,
looking at I see what you're
You know.
saying, but there's a level that they have to.
So I'm glad Janet mentioned it, because I was thinking it was 20% does not meet expectations or proficiency, but it's actually a distribution, and there's always gonna be 20% on the low end, and.
no, I think whatever anybody on that screener that doesn't meet
Their proficiency.
their
level.
proficiency, so they're gonna cut it off at 20%, whatever how many score questions they have to get right. Anybody who's below that 20%, like kind of like we do on.
Oh,
Fast
so
Bridge now.
it isn't percentile.
No,
Okay, I wrote, I.
It's just like
misheard
the
that.
fast bridge.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Like,
So it could
Okay.
be 0%, we could have 0%.
I-
that's the whole, that's what
Took
we're
it as
trying to do.
percentile. Okay.
0% under 20.
Yep, and that's what we're doing right now, that's why I have those
Yeah.
names in my,
So-
on my
We
wall.
want them,
So we're really fortunate that 2 years ago or whatever, we selected a curriculum that now is gonna meet the
Yes.
new standards
Well,
of
yeah.
the state.
And look,
And it's provided benefit.
Yeah.
Going through those scores, we've seen improvements under this curriculum. So
And, yeah, having taught the curriculum, I think there's I always think that the most important person is, I don't think it's the curriculum, I think it's the people making decisions and teaching. Kim and I have had this conversation, I'd much rather have a crappy curriculum and a really good teacher than vice versa. Because I don't think the curriculum will fix the problems of the instruction. But being in everybody's room, we have really good teachers in the elementary. And I didn't make the data up about the improvements we made on the Fast Bridge test for the AGR test. We're moving kids in the right direction. Are they is it fast enough? Not for me, but we're moving in the right direction. And that started with what Kim did. And we just build on that and we're just moving that direction. But yeah, it does. Whether it's volume 1 or volume 2, the curriculum we bought has the fundamentals of reading that we need for our kids to succeed,
Great.
I think.
And to double that, so they say that you have potentially could get up to 50% of the cost should we needed to purchase a new curriculum, but they have a limited amount of funds, and so when everybody purchases their curriculum, if they run out of money, you may not get that 50%. So we are saying, well, with at least having a curriculum that based on the science of reading, and then additionally with that bill requiring the training. So some of these companies who provide that training jack their prices way up. So actually, Andy working with CISA so closely, we have a brilliant CISA, they do great work there, so they're avoiding the Lexia company and going with the Keys Literacy, like Andy said, or.
And actually, it's the 25th, everybody below, it's not, I think it's 20 because we do 20%, it's 25, it's the 25th.
Well, at risk of falling out of favor with my colleagues for making this a long meeting.
Move along.
No. I wanna focus on this, cause this is why we're here, right? Getting kids off on a good plane. So the 3-year-old program intercedes with a lot of the disadvantaged kids that we had a long discussion a couple years ago about. That's really the challenge, that kids are coming into school, not knowing the alphabet, never having been read to, and then losing confidence as they realize they're not on par with their colleagues. So it's a 3-year-old program, I guess that's self-selected, you may not be.
Right, they may not, but Sam's doing the training as a 4K teacher and Sam has them. So Sam will be trained in that. Yeah, it's great. Sam, Leo knows, he gets story time, he gets all this stuff that Sam's got fun.
And my second question, so the focus, and rightly so, I think, is on taking kids that fall in that lower quartile and boosting them, but you also want to maintain engagement and interest by students who are
Yep.
excelling in reading and are teachers pushing them with additional books, I don't know. Okay.
Well, and that's I think that, Scott, I think that's an important something that I have to think about as far as school improvement and stuff goes too, because and I've had this discussion with a bunch of different teachers, and a lot of times you look at that fast bridge scores and the kids at the top only go up 2 or 3 points. Well, yeah, it's great if it's great if the kid who was low went up 15 points. And the kid who was at the top of the class goes up 2 or 3 points. Did they really only improve 2 or 3 points, or are we so concerned about the kids at the bottom and we're spending so much time focused on that the kids at their top are like, oh, they're okay. And there's a part of me that thinks, well, yeah, they're okay. And as a classroom teacher too, at what part do we need to scaffold things and make sure that they're getting pushed as hard as much as they needed to? And
I think that's key, why having the interventionists.
Yeah.
And having resources who are able to
And-
target the different tiers is important.
And with the win time this year with Sherry, with Tracy, and having that organized time and having those kids get pulled out, well, those highest kids are left in there. So then they have time to do more, they can do more stuff and they can push them farther, but.
Yeah, it's hard, I guess, in one classroom catering to kids at different levels, but that's kind of
That's what you gotta do.
teaching. Any other comments? I'm gonna try to get back into this favor, but
Do the interventionists get trained in this stuff too then? I mean.
Well,
they're
Sherry's-
The ones that are really pushing the kids when you pull them out.
Tracy will be, Sherry, since she's retired.
Sherry, we're kind of waiting to see how we fare after April.
In April. But Sherry has spent, somebody's retired, it's like she's made, all of a sudden started a second career. She has spent so much time. I love her to death, and we've worked together for how many years? But if I got one more text message or email in the middle of June, hey, I just found this, oh my God, just let it go, you don't even have a job yet. She is all in and she's doing, yeah, I'm not worried about Sherry one bit.
But she will get the training issues with us.
Might do it on her own.
anything else on
Act 20.
20 or reading program? We'll move on then to item B, the activity fund report, which is in your packet. Yeah, negative means positive. So I don't know, it's nice to see these numbers, you get an idea where clubs, et cetera, are at, but.
I have a question, a number of these are quite high compared to what we usually see, and they're not necessarily a problem with that, but when groups are fundraising, and I'm kind of directing this to you, Aaron, there's a purpose for it, right? We're just not out selling for the purpose of selling, right?
Right, yep.
I know some of them are like the FFA food stand and fruit sale, and I think the wrestlers now have a couple of events that they, so.
Yeah,
But-
and some of the class ones are obviously big too, but that covers all their trips and, that element.
Band's got the money for the trip.
Right, but that's gonna cover
That's
their
not-
trip and stuff, so.
Nobody has any questions?
Wait, so where will the robotics club, what do they call?
College prep, physics.
Physics.
Oh, physics. Where did it go?
I guess I don't see
Does that
that.
sound familiar? I saw it.
Oh, science.
Science club there, through some graduates.
Okay, so science club, so they have
The
7,000.
Science Club has $7,000, maybe they could have that. But I thought there was a physics club.
I feel like there might have been a physics club before and then they made it
They
That maybe
changed it
that's
to
what it was,
site
cause I'm
fun.
not seeing it.
I don't remember. if it's-
But if they've got
I'm not
$7,000
100%
on
sure.
that, they've got a good start
Signs.
right there, if not
Yeah.
the whole thing.
You know, this is a dumb idea. Where are these funds held? Like, are they in a,
Not much.
There's a huge piggy bank back there.
but, I mean, these are some pretty substantial amounts and you could generate interest with $62,000.
There's an accrued interest line.
Wondered if we don't wanna allow these funds to escape to a local bank where they can be, the club could decide to invest in a CD, so in 4 years they can afford, I don't know, just a thought. Cause I know sitting in a state account, nothing much happens, right? But
Well, hopefully it's very transitory. They're raising money for something, they spend the money.
yeah, I mean, it was just a thought, but
What's Fab Lab?
So that's the new fancy printer that we got. It's actually the ones that made all the new door signs for the building, so just kind of an all encompassing thing. Mr. Peterson's in charge of that one.
So they can like make stuff and sell it and.
And they're actually making all the new door signs
Mhm.
with the braille on and everything too.
so there is a line in here, accrued interest. So these are interest bearing, wherever they sit, they're being. Okay. So who gets the interest? Which club?
None of them. My knowledge, it just stays, it just goes, it's like in the general fund. Because the activity fund money is in our general fund checking account. And it's tracked through the financial software in order to generate this report and keep track of who has what.
So I'm just gonna. Not to elaborate on this, because my career I studied squirrels, so finance is not my realm. But there's, I don't know, there's $140,000 in the activity fund. What if that was all deposited in some interest bearing account, understanding which portion each club had? And each club then gained 5% interest, and we just added $7,000. I don't know.
We wouldn't be able to deposit locally and get that kind of return. It would have to go into the WISC and then monies would have to be transferred every time the clubs needed to spend their money. It would be more of a headache and have a mess.
And time consuming for them in the business office.
Just a thought. I'll stick to schools. Okay, well, good update. Any other less ridiculous comments than mine? Then, informational item on a couple of school buses. Bus number 7 was sold for $3,000 North Crawford. Number 8 needs a new gas tank, approximately $3,200, and it sounds like Jeff would like to sell that bus, and so expects to get around $4,000, so informational item, I don't know if any more than that needs to be.
Why don't you sell it to the travel club, you'd be out of it.
Jeff
Just
may
an
not
idea.
wanna drive that one.
I didn't say I was going with, I just thought it was an idea, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
I also heard, I don't know if it was here at a board meeting, but somewhere through the grapevine, are we cutting one bus route next year?
I'm just looking into that, yes.
I mean, that would be good if we can do that. But what made me think it was, well, we're down 2 buses, so.
Yeah. He has been mapping that out. I don't know that he has anything firm to hand off yet, but he did mention that, yes, he was looking at. So that will,
Real, that's one to look at real seriously.
yeah. So that will happen, but I haven't gotten the final details on. We still have 2 Reedstown routes.
Two buses in the afternoon come to Reedstown.
Well, one goes through, but I think this is the route that might be getting eliminated, is there's one that's gotten kind of small down there.
Yeah, cause like, there's one that goes down the highway and then there's one that goes up Maiden Street.
Yeah.
And they drop off, so
I don't
I
know
mean,
which
I
ones
always
are
wondered
anything.
like,
I was just
why?
thinking
Why
that
can't
might be
all
the
of them?
area, but-
Yeah. Cause Brenton, when he comes to my house, rides one bus, but when he goes to his dad's, he rides the other bus. I'm
Because
like,
you're on opposite sides of the
Of
main
the
drag
highway.
there, right?
Yeah.
And that's supposed to, that's safer than no kid has to.
Right.
cross that.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, I hadn't heard that, but one less route, one less bus, one less driver. So Burdette has retired.
But then that brings, that kids are on the bus longer, so.
Well, that's probably why he's still looking at it, because that's gonna take some working and, you know, more than one route may change. I mean, you might have to dart around a lot of them.
You can get just 3 buses out of coming up town of Bloom at 7 o'clock, and it'd be just great.
If he could, like, not have that
I
many.
have 3 of them in town of Bloom at 7:05.
Oh,
Yeah, right now, yeah, he's got 3 buses in town of Bloom, and of course, got Hillsborough coming toward QU, and I got Richmond Center coming up. So I got, to get snowplowed in that form, it's a challenge.
So even if that happens, we're losing 2 school buses, so. Looks like,
I'm sure the
Did we-
road-
They
We
are.
purchased one though,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's taking the place of one of these two.
okay, yeah, so. All right, then we are down to item B. Schedule of meetings, looks like we need a building, grounds, transportation and negotiations. But neither, of us, so do you want, members, do you wanna throw dates out now?
Sure.
Oh, no buildings and grounds.
We kicked the last-
We threw a lot of it out.
The agenda.
Yeah, for sure.
Never worked for them too, I'll just skip out.
I can make work.
Come a couple hours, whatever.
Meeting before school was really nice for me. I really like that.
That works for me.
What should, like next week? Give a day that is better than others?
Any of them?
But 19th before the,
And 19th is fine. I was
can't
gonna,
do the 19th.
you can't do 19th.
I can do, actually pretty much any other day that week. is fine. So, actually, no, I can't decide either, so,
Wednesday morning?
Wednesday, Thursday.
either of those are fine.
Yep.
Wednesday morning?
Wednesday morning?
Fine.
7 again.
7, 6:30, 6.
Come on,
Sorry.
guys. Yeah, get up.
5:30.
Work at 6 usually, so come on.
Why don't you go to work first and do your stuff done?
Why?
You have to work? No, so
So Wednesday, the 20th at 7.
7.
And then negotiations.
I think that's,
Is that me and you and Peggy?
What is the purpose?
I don't know.
Handbook or actually negotiate or?
I think it's time we start to kind of look at the salaries.
With CPI, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have to schedule something, but you'll have the CPI number, figure out what that is, and then I guess either one of us or you can, if you have recommendations or look at it. I would put it on the thing. So this would just be our committee, this isn't gonna be with,
Yeah.
well, when do you want it, how soon would you like to do that?
I mean, like mid-April? Or part of April?
I'd
Pretty
say
open.
definitely be here that first week in April since we have the vote and referendum, so
That sounds like a good week.
anytime that week.
Not election day. no polls.
And I think what, the next day in the afternoon will be,
We'll have the,
Doing,
we'll do
yeah,
canvas
this
the
stuff,
next
yeah.
day unless.
but I can do it, canvassing doesn't last for 10 hours.
Like now.
Tuesday and Wednesday nights are really bad for me.
Are there, and you're usually subbing during the days, right? So
It depends on when, right now, that week, I'm not subbing on Thursday or Friday, so I can not pick up a day.
it's up to you. I mean, I'm okay anytime, whenever.
I can make whatever work too.
If you guys wanna do if we can do during the day on Thursday or Friday, I'm up for that. Just because baseball is starting too, so now
Oh.
we will have baseball games almost every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Yeah.
On Thursday, I can't do from 10 to 11, but I can make any other time work.
Your Thursday, that would.
I can do anything. I don't think I have anything at this time point.
So you want
I
to
have
do-
baseball here at 5 o'clock.
Oh, so do you want to do it like at 3:00 or 3:30?
So which one? 3, 2, 3? 3?
Yeah.
So those are scheduled. Couple other thoughts. We had a policy and legislative affairs committee meeting before the board meeting tonight. We had talked about maybe scheduling another one to develop some public outreach related to the voucher issue, to educate folks. I've had a couple discussions that are frightening if the lack, as they may reflect a lack of public understanding about the impacts of the voucher program on public schools. So at any rate, Rich and Peggy, you guys are saddled already with other committee meetings, and there's no big rush. I mean,
No, but I mean, I could, anytime over the next 2 weeks, call in virtually, whatever, to a discussion or make some other time that week work. I mean, if you're available, we can, well, I don't know what your schedule is during the day, but we have our meeting at 3, we could do 2 if you're available on that Thursday.
Oh, on that same day,
what day was it?
the
4th.
4th.
April 4th. At 2?
Yeah, because we could have our meeting and then go into the negotiation meeting and.
I just think, as we've talked, that the reason for that committee being restructured is to deal with some of these legislative things that are harmful to public schools. So I think that this is a great opportunity to spec, well, another little addendum to that. Is this the point where we'd like to engage a community member who's very involved in such issues to join us and help craft?
Yeah.
If you know who I'm talking about, Rich.
Yeah, no, if you want, I mean, I don't know what the process is, but yeah, I mean, she spends too much time doing it,
Yeah, well,
but it's very important.
It
So, and she thinks it's very important, so.
I think
Value time.
we talked about that ability at a previous board meeting for a community member to be, but I think board approval is required if I recall, right? Does anybody remember?
I remember
that.
I thought it was.
So we won't have another board.
But a
meeting.
member of the public can attend committee meetings or open meetings.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe if that person's interested, she's welcome to attend as a member of the public, and then we could make that a little more formal for what it's worth.
Yeah, and I've still been looking at it, so I'll put together some information and send it to you
Okay,
to help at least start the discussion, facilitate the discussion, because I mean, it's some of the, like the question I sent to the congressman that, I don't know if that's still scheduled for the 20th now, but.
it is, but I haven't, I thought I was on their list of invitees, but I haven't heard anything. And I don't know why he's involved. That's a state issue. I don't know if.
Oh, no, but I mean, I think it's a federal issue too. I mean, right now it's state. In fact, that's why I put in the question. I mean, most of this is state, but I mean, the previous Secretary of Education, that's what she's pushing.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it is a federal thing, so.
Are we gonna be civil if we attend that?
I am always professional.
Okay, so we've got that scheduled, and sorry, I had one other thought. We've also got this new finance committee, and we've talked about meeting with Lafarge to try to find some shared needs or ways to collaborate for mutual benefit, and it'd be nice for probably each school to think about specific collaborations or potential cost savings, so when we go into that meeting, we've got some ideas rather than each other, so I don't know if that is a discussion we should have as a full board, or if the finance committee, or if maybe the administration's best posed to identify those things. I think we should have that discussion at some level before we meet with Lafarge, so we've got ideas.
You know, if you're not going to like staff sharing and stuff, I do think the administration would probably be the best input to have there. I mean, but, you know, I don't know if they're gonna have the idea of what might be feasible. And maybe some look at like the high school courses, the numbers we have in things, so that, you know, we know where maybe we have a low number of students in some junior, senior type classes that, you know, maybe there's a possibility. But I think that's not a bad idea.
So I don't know, what do you guys think, where should that start? Like Janet suggested, we sort of charge the administration with identifying some things, or should the finance committee meet and start?
Yeah, I think we can sit down and look at numbers, which is kind of what we've been planning to do for our classes. But then I was gonna include this in my superintendent, but in speaking on that and looking at Tina's retirement, I was trying to reach Megan today to see if that is a potential position that we could share. Food service.
If in her position, there's certain training and licensing that
Yeah.
person needs. So if they already have one that meets that licensing, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah,
Because then that would be the person who does menus, and I don't know, I don't
Ordering
understand the
it.
whole thing, but but Tina actually did that function for them for a while before they had
oh,
something.
yeah. So, yeah, that is one area I think too that would be solve a couple of problems,
Yeah.
because I don't know who would be out there
Right.
in that role.
Okay, so that discussion will start within the school. I think it'd be good to have to bring those ideas to the board just for a discussion here, because those are the opportunities to think way outside the box. Right? It's not just, you've got a halftime person, we've got a halftime person, let's save a little money on insurance by making it. I mean, you could get really creative and just, you could fundamentally start with that pie chart. Here's our expenses. Here's the biggest one.
This is where we gotta look, yeah.
Increase efficiencies here. You could really, I've got some creative, I think creative thoughts that are probably unrealistic, but it's a brainstorming session, right? The more creative you get, the more surprises you get in terms of what you can
You may
collaborate.
want to also let you can measure, we're looking at doing it, going through that so that they also.
I will, yeah, I will do that.
All right,
And maybe to your point, Scott, our first finance meeting might just need to be a brainstorming session of what we want to get out of that too. Because I think that's part of the challenge of when we set up a meeting is, we don't really pass anything specific to that committee. So maybe come April, maybe in our next meeting, we just kind of see what the need is at that point, and we can maybe put a couple items on the agenda and then really have a brainstorming session, what else we want to get out of that, or what else we want that committee to tackle and get results.
Yeah.
What outcomes are we looking for?
and I'll just throw one of my stupid ideas out there, because I'm 56, I've got 5 kids, I've been married a long time, so I have no ego left, so laugh at me all you want. But, Lafarge passed a capital referendum. We've got a referendum, but both schools are small and facing the same budgetary issues. So again, thinking creatively, and one of the thoughts as I was looking at that pie chart, the cost of transportation is high. school buses are expensive, you know, it's a slice of our pie. What if we started, and this is, I'm just throwing this out there as a, and I know there's problems and, but just as an example of thinking outside the box, what if we had one set of school buses, school started here at 7:25 and started there at 8:20. And they ran around here and then around there.
Not to throw cold water on it, but you might just kill all our high cost transportation aid. And we got $106,000 last year, or that was 2 years ago, I don't know. if we had last
Yeah,
year.
because it ended up being 8,000, something like that, but.
We had 106.
And that's computed, I don't know how, if we could still separate, it might work, there's some things to do with it, but that would be
I
my
didn't wanna
caution on
get
that
in-
one, you don't wanna lose that high cost transportation aid.
I-
Because they got zero during the year, we got 106,000, I don't know what they got last year.
I hope 9 out of 10 ideas that arise through this meeting similarly get cold water, because it means we're pushing, we're really digging into the trenches and looking for, because that one
There may be
idea.
a way to share that and still report everything separately, as long as we figure out how to divide the costs.
But it starts with understanding where we're spending a lot of money and where we can really then save money by doing something creative. But just as, I threw that out there because you laugh at me enough cold water on me, there's chances to think outside the box. All right, we are down to, I think, superintendent's report, Kim.
Okay, so, I shared about Tina's position, and then speaking on behalf of being involved with legislators. Today on my call, they were suggesting that we start inviting them into our school, inviting them to different activities that we have, just to start trying to build more relationships. So we'll invite them. We have Sam Goodwin and Anna, and several others who I think I've spoke on this before, but we've talked about having a birthday celebration for Lee Griffin. So some sort of open house where we open up our trails, have open swim, and art. All of that is still in the works, and I think will come to fruition, but everyone's kind of working quickly, but that's an opportunity to bring someone in so he can see our grounds and all the great things happening here at Kickapoo. Really positive, Mrs. Muller was sharing that she has 30 students signed up for preschool screening. So that's a really high number, which is really positive. And then has heard that there are a couple others in the district who have not registered for preschool screening. So that puts our numbers close to 34. And then should we get any at the start of the year like we typically do, so seeing an increase with our 4K coming in. And then that 4K class going to kindergarten looks like a 27 student.
Guys,
Yeah,
so those are just 4-year-olds that are in the district. So we may also get, so we can assume they're testing here, they're gonna come here, right? So we might then also get some open enrolled.
that's always a possibility, yes.
Do we know that all 30 of those are in our district though? I mean.
I guess she didn't mention.
It wouldn't necessarily occur to her to ask, but it isn't gonna matter, as long as they're coming here to come, and it would be better if they were. Actually.
All of our
districts, yeah,
Yeah.
but if they're not, that's fine.
And also what's being looked at DPI and moving forward is they're believing that they're going to put the start date for the school year back into local control. They think they're getting closer to that, probably for the 25-26 school year.
Not completely local control though, what they were explaining it.
Yeah.
Did you hear it at WASB or you at the legal thing? It's like you'll have that last week or so in August that you can do, but then you have to take is it the Friday before Labor Day and it's a very restricted sort of thing now, but the WASB is supporting it because it kind of opens the door to at least a little bit of local control and then hopefully they can move forward.
And that the process.
What's proposed now is pretty limited.
But that the
Anything
application
is-
process or something, or the reasonings to start earlier are gonna be a little bit different or something.
Probably, because now, yeah, there's a system you can apply to start, you know, for an earlier
But
start.
there's only a very small amount of things that they'll
And
allow.
we got turned down when after the flood of 2018 with the number of days lost and everything, and the fact that we were having that problem every couple of years. We applied and asked to start school like a week earlier every year just to account for that, and got turned down.
Yeah.
So
So
So they're entertaining the idea and they're
Yeah.
getting a lot
They're-
of different
it's moving in
feedback.
that direction.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's something that our legislative affairs committee could chime in on. The hearing's the 25th though, for that, so there's not much time to draft something, but if we wanted to chime in,
Yeah.
if it's important.
And then I guess we're looking at, getting together for a meeting here to kind of finalize or do our annual requirement reports for, ESSER funds. And other than being incredibly busy with referendum and, on campus issues, my days are pretty full, but that's about all I have today.
Thanks, Kim. Principals?
I talked him up.
So a few things, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of John Armbruster. He wrote the book Tailspin
Oh, yeah.
recently about a World War II veteran. So he is actually coming to speak to the middle school, high school kids on March 27th. So typically it's open to the community as well. So unless anybody has any objections, I think we would do the same. If people want to come, kind of usually an hour presentation. He interacts with classes afterwards if you want him to. So we do have a couple of classes that would like him to come and talk a little bit more. And so that's the plan. So we'll advertise that here in the next week or so. And so, but just be aware, I've heard he's gone to a number of other local schools and I've heard it's awesome. He does a great job. So.
And you said March 27th,
That's just off the top of my, that's a Wednesday.
Wednesday, yep,
Okay,
that is
yes,
Wednesday.
it's March 27th. Yeah,
10
at 10:15, but we'll get it out on the website and stuff. So there's more information.
well, and I think we need to do a little more than that, but if
Okay.
we could get,
Do you want to put it in the paper and stuff too?
I would really like it, like,
Okay.
if we could get her to do a little box on the front page of the paper. and
Okay.
With it.
You want to note that, Marla?
Yeah, I just heard about it this weekend.
Is he gonna sign
Yeah, some people had.
I think that's part of it. He has books and stuff there, yeah.
He just spoke some.
We have the
Yeah.
books, I, you
Okay.
know, of course, got it for Brenton.
Gotcha. Yeah,
So I'm like.
Okay.
But, and is it gonna be in the auditorium?
Yep,
So we can
Yep,
break?
we'll be in the auditorium.
Does he charge a speaker fee or is?
Yep, he does. Yep.
He's retired now, he needs money.
But yeah, hopefully it'll be great. Like I said, I've heard everything really positive from it, so I think it's a good opportunity. Other thing, at the end of the year, we always have an academic assembly that we start to really just kind of like a sports assembly to recognize kids for all the great things they do throughout the year. One thing we decided to incorporate this year is something that we call the Premier Panther Award. So we would actually have almost like the DAR Good Citizen. I think Bo was a DAR Good Citizen, weren't you?
Yeah, Daughters of American Revolution.
All
Yeah.
right, so we'd kind of do it similar, except a little bit in reverse. We would actually have the kids vote. And then we would take the top 3 kids and then the teachers would pick the person who they feel displays the best elements of integrity, pride, those positive characteristics. So it's something new that we'll try. I think it'd be good to always recognize kids for the good things that they do. Next week is FFA week, so we'll have some activities going on with that. Part of that is they do differing activities, but it's drive your tractor to school day and some elements with that. What's that?
And hope it's a nice day.
Yeah. Mr. Peterson told me today or yesterday, there was something that went out that gave schools the opportunity for a girls team to play flag football at Lambeau Field. And so they sent in, and so we were one of 10 out of 50 schools that got picked. So
Learn how to play flag
What
football.
is it?
I can't, let me look right here. I think it's April 13th. So it's a Saturday. They give us $1,000, so expenses are covered. So we have 5 teachers, coaches, We're gonna go up for the day with the team. It's 10th through 12th grade girls. And so they will play flag football in Green Bay. The only thing with that and the timing, and we can bring it back for official action, but it's out of the mile radius. So if everybody's okay with it, it was hard to get on this agenda because it just happened, but just to be aware of it. So I think a really cool opportunity. The kids were kind of excited. I really, Kent didn't say anything about it to me, but there were some girls at lunch the other day and he just said, I have something to tell you. What? Is it this? Is it this? No, not, okay, yeah, they're all pretty excited. So I think it'll be a pretty cool opportunity. And the last one, I can't remember if we typically bring it in April or May, but we're working on, now that we've got scheduling pretty much wrapped up and where things are at, to bring back any changes as far as course descriptions or new classes, any changes in the handbook and that element. So Mrs. Eggy and I will be working on that to really kind of wrap things up and try to always look at any improvements we can make to better communicate through the handbook, or course descriptions or any new course descriptions that we will have. So, any questions?
I have a comment.
Okay.
The work study banners, I think that are out
Yeah.
in the enjoy, really cool. I think that's awesome that they did that, honor those kids that kind of excel in other areas of the
Yep.
sports. It's really neat.
For sure. Yep, Mrs. Goodrich does an awesome job with
Yes,
that.
and just another kudos to, who didn't miss it?
Casey
Casey
Goodrich, yep.
Goodrich. At the CISA board meeting, Tom Martin, who's the school to work coordinator
Yep,
there,
yep.
actually used her and talked about that, and a lot of other schools are gonna start doing that too, and it's because of her, so.
Yep, for sure. Yep, awesome job. She does a great job with it, so.
Yeah.
Anybody else, any other comments or questions?
I think every other school that picks that up at the top of their banner, it should be as begun at Kickapoo.
I'll try to push that, Scott. All right, you're up.
All right, short and sweet. Elementary had a school carnival today put on by Booster Club, very well attended, fundraiser for the Gaga Ball pit. If anybody doesn't know what a Gaga Ball is, a pit, and they have to hit the ball, and it's kind of like dodgeball, but you have to hit it below your knee, and it's pretty much filled. It's constantly filled at recess, and so that's what they did with their last fundraiser. So I'm not sure what their plans are with the money for this one, but they had a space theme, and then they found somebody who, she's actually a waitress in Viroqua at maybe Lately's, but she worked for NASA to design blankets or the spacesuit or something, so she came in and did a talk, so pretty neat. The high school is doing a play this weekend, because they're doing the 23rd, so they're gonna do they want an audience, so the elementary is gonna get a preview tomorrow at 8:30, from 8:30 to 9. State testing is coming up after we get back from Easter, so let's do some prep 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then we'll spend those 2 weeks to get state testing out of the way for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and then we have the summer school plan is just about all together. We have 4K class, kindergarten class, and then we're gonna call it Camp Kickapoo for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And we're gonna have, we're gonna provide swimming lessons, and there are 5 teachers that have 4 teachers, and then Dawn, who has her sub license, wants to do it. And once we figure out how many people have signed up and how we can make swimming lessons work, we're gonna either rotate through all 5 teachers, or we'll split up the 1st and 2nd and 3rd graders. I can't get my head around it until we see exactly how many kids signed up. And then Lori is doing a robotics class, and Heather and Megan Schuler are doing a high school art class, and scrapbooking. And then we'll have the strength and conditioning again, and Weagle's driver's ed. And then a couple of teachers have volunteered to do some remediation stuff too during that time. And we'll have to talk about like James and those guys last year for middle school, high school. But hopefully by next week, everybody will read over the slideshow, and I'll be able to put that on the website. And by April, we'll know, I think I put the deadline is, from what I learned last year, I'll put the deadline at April 26th, and about 60 kids will sign up. And then when their parents realize they can get rid of their kids for 2 weeks, there'll be 140 kids signed up, so, and I'll let you know the numbers on that, but that's just about ready to go out.
Are we gonna provide transportation again as usual?
Yes. And lunch, and breakfast and lunch.
Yes.
That will be the same, it'll be from, last year we did it for 2 weeks and that was more, the staff preferred to do it for 2 weeks to 3 weeks, so we'll stick with the 2 weeks, we're gonna do it April, Jesus. July, the week, July 8th to the 19th, is that what I put? The 2 weeks after, then kind of a nice in the middle, so they don't have the big slide. Everybody can kind of get away and regroup and then come back, and I think we had 100. Let's see, we had 120 elementary kids in last year. I mean, I'd have to look back with all of them. I have it, but I remember not good with numbers off the top of my head. But yeah, it'd be 8 to noon. That's what we'll do, and feed everybody and send them home. Any questions?
Thanks, Aaron and Andy. Next, we're going to convene the closed session pursuant to state statute 19.85, paragraph 1 C. Considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which a governmental body has jurisdiction to exercise its responsibility. Our purposes tonight: youth coordinator contracts, assistant softball coach, and the bus driver contract. Entertain a motion to convene in closed session.
Motion to convene closed session.
I'll second.
Motion by Earl, second by Janet to convene the closed session, and this will be a roll call vote.
Rich James,
Yes.
Peggy McCormick,
Yes.
Bo Schrader,
Yes.
Janet Mathis.
Yes.
Earl Wallace.
Yes.
Isaac Wallace.
Yes.
And Scott Walter.
Yes.
That's the only roll call vote we need.
Yeah. Okay, we're back in open session with a few.
Make a motion that we award the youth contracts to Matt Woods for boys youth basketball, Eric Wiggle for girls youth basketball, Dustin Clemens for youth wrestling, assistant softball coach to Trina Townsend, bus driver contract to Troy DePaul.
Motion by Earl, second by Isaac to approve the positions as listed. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes, and that leaves us with one motion.
Make that motion to adjourn.
Motion by Janet, second by Isaac to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. It's not my fault.
Sure.